Probably lose it.
Are you good over there?
No.
No?
You said, "Are you ready?" And I said, "No."
Well, we can wait. We got time.
Start it anyway.
We can wait.
No.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another installment of Ooh.
I've never heard of that podcast.
Respectfully, I need you to pause. Yeah, so I'm watching the Texas Tech Oklahoma game. Guy was hosed at the plate, and they called the catcher interfering because he didn't have the ball yet and he was right in front of the plate. So there's that.
Are we getting a collision or like what was the deal?
There was a collision. Like he slid into it, but the catcher was up the line already and in front of the plate without the ball.
Yep, it cleared up.
So, yeah. Anyways, welcome back to the No Place Like Homaha podcast. I'm your host, JD Wonder, alongside Nick Hendricks and Mikey Love.
Well, it's been another interesting weekend. And by interesting weekend,
because you're here and like you just come on, you don't. You come on, so probably next week you won't. The viewers and listeners have no idea what the hell is going on. Some days they think you love us, which is today. Other weeks they think you just don't like us, which was last week. So it has been a very interesting week.
I apologize that my job.
Nope. Apology denied.
Ooh.
All right. Well, you're a ginger, so.
Geez, there's no need. There's no need for name calling.
And I have fruit snacks.
Diving into then our games, looking then at our Friday games, I'm just kind of looking at the upsets and kind of list those off. Then we'll list off Saturdays and then go into Sundays. Obviously, still right now we're recording at 2:00 on a Sunday. So some of the games haven't happened yet. Some of the games are happening. So first of all, we got Duke on Friday upsetting Boston College. We have Pittsburgh upsetting Virginia. Old Dominion pulling out the first game against Coastal Carolina. Eastern Kentucky upsetting Florida Gulf Coast. UNC Wilmington taking the first game against TCU. West Virginia taking a game against Oklahoma State. And looking at other Georgia upsetting Florida in the first game against them. Who else? Oregon upsetting Stanford. Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Did you get Pitt versus Virginia? All right.
Washington upsetting Arizona State. Oregon State upsetting USC. Kentucky upsetting LSU in that first game. South Carolina upsetting Vanderbilt.
No, Vanderbilt won game one on Friday. Vanderbilt won game one on Friday.
14-6 South Carolina.
That is called Saturday's game.
That was Friday's game. Did they play Thursday, Friday, Saturday then?
No, they played Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, Friday was Vanderbilt. Friday was Vanderbilt 8-5. Saturday.
What? No, you've got it flipped.
That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Friday, Vanderbilt lost 14-6, and they won yesterday 8-5. Can you?
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it, Mike. Thank you.
No, my ESPN app did a weirdie.
Nope, get wrecked.
All right,
stupid.
well.
Looking then on to Saturday. Over Miami and North Carolina went into 11 innings. Oh, North Carolina still pulled up. Xavier upset UConn in their second game. Longwood upsetting Campbell in their second game. Eastern Kentucky taking another one from Florida Gulf Coast. So I believe they'll either be looking to finish the sweep today or...
What did you say?
Eastern Kentucky upset Florida Gulf Coast.
I heard Eastern Carolina, and I was like, buddy, they're playing right now, and they're not playing Florida Gulf Coast.
Are you talking about the Saturday game?
Friday and Saturday, they won both. Eastern Carolina won both games.
Good God.
My brother in Christ, I don't believe that you have anything to say at this point. I'm going to be honest with you.
Florida Gulf Coast lost the first two.
Yeah.
I heard. Okay, so then what the heck? So Saturday, then I have a score here that Florida Gulf Coast has a 23-7 victory.
Well, they had two games yesterday.
Okay, well, then they finished up the series, but Eastern Kentucky took the series from them. Baylor upset Texas on Saturday. Miami upset North Carolina on Saturday. Coastal Carolina did come back and put it on Old Dominion in the second game, Mikey. I'm sorry to hear that. Oregon then took another game from Stanford. Looking like a team that'll crack into
No.
the top 25 moving forward just because
No.
they'll be able to flip
They were there
around
last
a little
week.
bit. Oregon State upsetting USC again. Pittsburgh upsetting Virginia again on Saturday. So taking 2 so far from Virginia. West Virginia also again upsetting Oklahoma State on Saturday.
You already
So
said
they
them.
took the series. Otherwise, that would be it. Otherwise, the games are being played out today. So there's that.
When you want to talk about a team that is offensive, and we have talked about it before, but this South Carolina team continues to impress me on just being able to stack
with
up
the bombs that they hit, or what?
Yes, just being able to produce offense in general. I mean, I believe on Friday night there was 5 or 6 nukes on the day in the 14-6 win. South Carolina just continuing to add it on, and even still with an 8-5 loss against Vandy on Saturday. I mean, that's still impressive when you get a Vanderbilt team who at the beginning of the year we were talking about, they didn't look strong out of the gate. They looked very, very weak. They were not playing the same Vanderbilt baseball that everybody knows. And now it's fallen into Ole Miss not playing the same baseball that they played last year, which, I mean, granted, you still had Ole Miss sneaking into the tournament last year, but they were able to pull it through and win a national title on it because Mississippi State walked them off yesterday, I believe. And so now looking at this Vanderbilt series, you have a chance to put a statement on the SEC after splitting a series against LSU last weekend with the last game getting canceled. It's going to be an impressive fight for the SEC because, I mean, you still got Florida in there who's able to put up some runs. A Kentucky team who's trying to be playing spoiler here against LSU for the weekend. So that should be interesting to see how the rest of the series goes for that. But I mean, still, over. Is it? Well, I have not been able to watch a lot of baseball this weekend. I apologize.
I'm hearing excuses.
But I mean, still, the South Carolina team coming down the stretch. I mean, this is a team that I would expect to at least be a top 16 national seed for a host for a regional site, but also a team that I would see in Omaha. I mean, they just continue to let up the boards here because, like, let's go. We can keep talking about other teams, but I'm going to pull the stats up here if I can for South Carolina, just on a home run number. I mean, that is
their leader, Ethan Perry.
Just in general. Well, yeah, I know
their whole team stats.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
I mean, just kind of building off of that, like just saying that. I mean, they're in a tough. Obviously, the SEC is going to be the toughest conference.
Yes.
So I mean, they do have a chance to be one of those teams that does host for sure, but I think going down the road, it's going to be tough, especially going through that SEC schedule. And then also depending on seeding for them to get to Omaha. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if they're not going to win the SEC, then they don't have as easy of a path. Well, granted, nobody has an easy path there, but
no.
At the same time, if you're a high ranked seed and you win your conference and do all this kind of stuff, you have a pretty good chance to make it here. And so with that, they would have to just like scrap and fight.
Especially when you have 84 home runs as a team. And I mean, that's just impressive. Your 3 top guys on your roster right now, Ethan Perry hitting 432. You got Cole Messina, he's hitting 316. And then Talmadge LaCroix, he's hitting 313 on the season. So I mean, there's a lot of baseball still to be played here, but the batting averages this year to me have just been absolutely impressive as well. I mean, you still at this time in the season, you have guys that are still hitting 500 and high 4s.
I don't include those guys that are hitting 500.
Well, no, like if you take a look at some of the,
they've got 4 plate appearances. Don't include them.
Next, no, I'm not talking about the guys that are. I'm not talking about the guys that are only hitting with 5 plate appearances. Like I'll go
one of those 500s is a pitcher, by the way.
Oh my gosh,
which is still thoroughly impressive. But
athlete.
So here's the main batting average leaders, and we'll go through this. So as of before this weekend, Dylan Cruz, obviously he was hitting 500. Nick Iannito from where is that from? I don't know. But he's hitting.
That's your second?
Yeah, he's hitting 474, and this was as of last week. So this was 3 days ago. So if you have an updated version, you let me know.
Last week, buddy, I am so confused by the words that
This was like 3 days. This was 3 days ago, like in the middle of the week.
Like as in, it's meaning it hasn't taken the weekend series into account.
Yes, but we can pull the weekend series into account here. I have that pulled up because I've got Dylan Cruz.
Not calculating it.
Dylan Cruz, he's hitting 500.
Yeah.
In 114 plate appearances. Jacob Wilson in 124 from Grand Canyon. He's hitting 477.
Yeah.
Then you got Nick Chanel from Florida Atlantic.
Nolan Chanel, sorry.
Okay.
The 167 plate appearances.
Okay.
He's hitting 463. Holt, from West Virginia. He's hitting 451, 171 plate appearances. I mean, you got to go down the list here for guys that still have over 100 plate appearances to not find somebody hitting 400.
The funny thing is that this is where I find it funny. Like with a comment where people say hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do, period.
Mm-hmm.
And like it totally is. But then you see people doing this. That Dylan Cruz, he hits a ball 1 out of 2 times.
Yeah.
And he reaches safely. Like that is why he will be the first overall pick, in this coming draft. But that just goes to show you like the difference between like collegiate and high school, and like it's all hard except for T-ball.
Yeah.
T-ball, well, even T-ball, sure. The ball's there, but you still swing and miss.
Hey, it's tough. It's tough.
Teamwork is hard.
It is. But it's just crazy to see. Like it's almost like it'd be like if they kept they do keep an average on like QB throws, and like it's a completion percentage essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's still hard to do, but it's just interesting to see it all at the different levels.
Well,
with collegiate being like the hardest level before you're considered a pro, Yeah.
Well, my thing is here, we'll go through the top 5 hitters by average in the country so far right now.
God.
Dylan Cruz has only 16 strikeouts. The next closest to him for strikeouts is once again 16. That's Tyler Davis from Sam Houston State. But otherwise, only 14 strikeouts, 12 strikeouts, and 5 strikeouts. So that is the thing that thoroughly impresses me. It's you're striking out in baseball it's somewhat easy. And I will say easy because, I mean, you're having to swing a lot of pitches. Sometimes you have to guess what they're throwing. You can't lay off speed. But my thing is you still have guys that are hitting high 400s, only striking out a handful of times. So they are constantly putting the ball in play. Because, I mean, I'll even go for walks. Dylan Cruz has 39 walks. The next closest to him would be Chanel from Florida Atlantic. He only has 33. But everybody else on this list, 12, 19, 15. So they're not walking a ton. They're walking a decent amount, but they're not walking as many times as you would think in that appearance. So they are constantly putting the bat on the ball and getting hard contact across the field.
I think, I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but Jacob Wilson from GCU has 5 strikeouts. Out of 124 plate appearances.
Which is astonishing in itself.
Wicked.
And then, even just like the side-by-sides, you got JJ Weatherholt, who's got 26 stolen bases to add to all of that.
Yeah.
It's just...
Got some elite athletes this year, for sure.
Yeah, me included. I mean,
well, yeah, we already knew that. It's like a tier above at that point.
But then it's also funny to see these guys who have 11 HBPs.
Speaking of just elite athletes, what is his name? UCF player Plumlee.
Yeah,
he played
the starting quarterback.
Crazy. So that was one thing I wanted to talk about because we'll also get to the controversy with what they got going on. But UCF, their quarterback also center fielder for the Knights and also the Knots. I don't know why they have 2 different mascots.
It's weird.
2 different sports. Anyways, so
he
starts off
our 2021 national champions. Is that what you're talking about?
Stop
it.
2020.
Yeah,
20. No, it was like 2018.
It was
2018, 2019.
There.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
Anyways.
Yes.
It was Scott Frost last year.
So moving on to that, he started out the day, played in a game. He actually had, I believe, in that last at bat, he had an RBI, but if he didn't, he had a single, so they pinch ran for him, but they also had their spring game in the same day. So
which he missed the first drive of.
he finished out his chance playing at the ball field, got in a cart, headed over to the locker room, had to switch out into his pads and stuff, and then went out onto the field.
The crazy thing is like that's just the one that we've seen like on social media.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's been other
there's
been other
loads of
athletes
people who do that. They might not be the starting quarterback for their football team, but like they could be a second string wide receiver or tight end.
Ole Miss is a starting either offensive and defensive lineman on their team.
Those
right
gotta
now.
be some big old boys.
He is a big old boy.
He's like
Corn-fed,
he's
baby.
pushing three bills.
3 bills? Corn
Like
fed.
legitimately, he's huge.
Oh, I'm gonna find him here because I'm looking at Ole Miss's roster. Yeah, it's I believe it's Taewon Malone, 6'4", 315 pounds.
Yeah, I would say that's him for sure.
Yeah. He a right-handed hitter, plays football and baseball for Ole Miss. I mean, the man
Athlete.
is a tank.
Yep.
Athlete.
Anyway, so then moving on to more story at UCF. So they had some. Oh goodness, my shit's frozen. Stop freezing.
Wow, that's a hot picture we got there. Turn your video off and on, but keep telling the story.
Oh, there it is. Okay. But I gotta just close some windows, see what it does.
Yeah, close your naughty windows.
Today,
Nick
Junior.
won't put us on.
My brother in Christ. Okay. So going to then some controversy there. What they had come up was they were tagged in saying that they had illegal bats or some sort of thing with their bats. And so they interviewed the coach about it. And tell me you're guilty without telling me you're guilty. That whole video, it seems like he just dances around the question and it just is like, are you dealing with the problem? He's like, oh yeah, we're dealing with it in house, yada yada yada. And he's like, well, like, what are you doing exactly to make the bets illegal? I was like, well, that's a tricky question. With all the regulations and stuff. It's like, no, there's pretty simple, straightforward stuff. You put a sticker on a bat that gets used for the season. You got to follow the sanctioned rules, like don't tamper with them, all this kind of stuff. So again, you can look up the video. I don't know, like if you guys want to look up the video, but yeah.
And to me, here's my thing. They make all of these bats. So like back when it was, I think it was probably 2020. I think it was 2021 or 2022, like last year or so. One of Louisville Sluggers bats, one of the prime models, was made illegal from like a certain. I think it was like the 31 or the 34-inch bat was illegal or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
How the hell, as a bat company, do you not get the regulations from the NCAA so you still make an illegal bat? But also, where are we going to stop trying to make certain bats illegal? Because, I mean, at this point, you're going to basically put a wood bat into the hands of college players, which honestly, in my opinion, not the worst idea. Because if you want these kids to go play pro, then yeah, still the bats that we have now are still kind of as close to a wood bat as they can get. But I mean, still, it's not like you're using a Beezer bat from back in the day where as soon as I go up and I put a ball 4 feet in the air, it's just going to start going on a line and, getting out on the parking lot. Even though I miss those days of seeing just absolute titanic nukes, but now you still got guys that are hitting 400 to 500-foot bombs anyhow. There was 2 500-foot bombs last week. I mean, I just don't understand sometimes where the illegality of a bat is going to really affect the play unless it is truly seen as a Beezer bat.
Well, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the thing is that the bats were getting tested because the bats get tested before every series.
Yes.
And they get a sticker on them. They were taking the sticker off of the approved bats and putting them on. And I don't know how it got caught or anything else behind that, but like I believe that's the speculation behind it.
So you're having to turn in a list of your bats before you go into a game.
You turn in the list and they physically check the bats. The umpires do.
My Lord. I'm just so many rules have been put into the play of baseball that I just sometimes don't understand anymore. Because I was scrolling through Twitter the other day, and next level up, but Cody Bellinger, when they were back at the Dodgers, he got a standing ovation from the whole Dodger faithful, and he actually got hit with a violation for that.
Pitch clock. Yep.
I'm like, dude,
That's an umpire thing.
that is such an umpire
Yeah, you got to
thing.
read the room. In all honesty.
Yeah, it's like you can go against the rules. Like if somebody gets a standing ovation, I guarantee you the manager across the way is not gonna freaking care.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Maybe.
he might. I
Maybe.
mean, you could Jake Geloff could go all the way to playing the MLB. He comes back and he gets a standing ovation in the middle of an inning, coming back to the campus of Virginia in the middle of the season for some unknown reason. And he's going to stand up and he's going to get a standing ovation. Or are you going to pitch? Are you going to give the batter a pitch clock at that point?
Yes.
Why?
Suck.
Get wrecked.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many different things right now that baseball is doing that I'm on the fence about a little bit. Because the bad thing I get, you have to have your legal bat, but at the same time, you're going to go through it. You're going to sit and check every single bat. Why not just, if the bats are already legal, and as a college, you get yearly bats, then after the next year, you can't use that bat. So like after the 2023 season, the 2023 models, you can't use anything from 2023 on to 2022. You can't go back and use them. You have to stick with the year.
I don't know about all that, but like, I think like it's just tough just dealing with all this kind of stuff. There's multiple ways to kind of tamper them, and obviously there's still ways to tamper wood bats too.
Yeah.
But I feel like it'd be less of an issue because I feel like some kids get more comfortable with certain bats and they use those bats. So I mean, there's nothing against that, but if it meets the regulations, then it should be fine.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to deal with it every single time.
It's just, to me, that stuff's getting so technical. I mean, it would be kind of interesting to see how an entire now college league, if there was a potential to move wood bats down to college, you're already prepped for the majors and the minors. So there's a benefit on that end. I still think that it's not going to limit offensive production. It's going to take some getting used to for players, but I don't think it'll limit offensive production because, I mean, still, like I said, there are guys hitting 500-foot nukes this season. Pitchers are either throwing 100 miles an hour as a two-way guy or just as a pitcher in general. So you're facing the same stuff that you would in the majors, but now you're just kind of adding that extra implication in there because they're already doing that with the pitch clock. They're already doing that with the celebration stuff. So, I mean, there is an implication for it. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens in the next 5 years, but
Makes sense. Okay. So moving along. Segment we introduced last week. Big Pimpin'.
Oh yeah, Nick. Welcome back to our series that we started.
Got the Big Pimpin' player of the week, who I would like to hand it out to would be Florida Gulf Coast's Brian Ellis. He set the on-base record for all of NCAA. He set a record that said where he reached base safely in 102 straight games.
that's some pimping action.
I'd say that's big pimping for sure.
That is,
I guess. Seemed
big
better.
old pimp.
Talked about who was it? Jake Mangum. That was the big leadoff guy for Mississippi State for a long time.
Right? Yeah.
Mhm.
That man.
And yep, to overtake kind of that kind of thing is, again, to set any kind of record is very impressive. But 102 straight games reaching base safely, whether that be walk, hit by pitch, single, double, triple, home run, all this kind of stuff.
That's
102
thoroughly
straight
impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think, has there been a major leaguer that has done that for a while?
No, there was a
Pardon me.
56-game hitting streak by Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that also included then on base in every game, but who knows?
Probably did.
But you got to think about it this way too: 102 games consecutively in college is meaning that he had a season and then had an off season and then had to come back that next season and continue to do it.
Yeah.
So there was no tune-up games in between.
Yeah. Which here's the thing that I want to say, or like ask a question about. Do you think that we start seeing a little bit different numbers because college baseball doesn't have that spring training season, because they immediately take that, they go all the way from March, play till June. They have the College World Series, and then they take that big break. For the MLB, you go from the beginning of March, late and April. You go through November, you take that break, and then you have a spring training on top of that. Do you think that you're actually seeing a little bit better performance from your college athletes on the ball field than you are from the majors, even though you are playing at a higher level? Or do you think that affects anything at all?
Just playing the load of games?
Just being able to get that break without the spring training.
I don't know, because I feel like it's with every single week for college play, every single game matters, right? So it's gonna seed you to either get into the conference tournament or the postseason all around. Like, there are points in the MLB season where you can kind of take them off. You know, those mid-July games, kind of relax a little bit. If you're getting near the end of the season and it's looking like you won't make the postseason and stuff, you can start to take that off too. And especially with like spring training, you just see a lot of prospects come up and all that kind of stuff. Which I feel like colleges still kind of use those first few weeks to kind of see who they want where. But realistically, their season is very short. It's less than half of the MLB season.
Even though they start somewhat earlier than the MLB, starting in late February, early March.
Right, but then you got to think about they'll go until June at the latest, and the MLB goes until October, possibly November,
even including that spring training season.
So I mean, it's just, I think at the college you'll see it more competitively day to day because every single game matters, and you got guys that are also young. They're out there to continue to play and stuff like that. They're not collecting a paycheck. They're not doing that kind of stuff. And they don't like have, a triple A, double A, single A, like people below them, stuff like that, to where, they feel like, oh, if I don't do well or something, I can just sit on the bench and have somebody else. It's like, no, you have maybe a backup or two behind you, but you really got to just play for the guys around you.
Yeah. So. Interesting. Mikey, do you have any input on the question?
No.
He said no.
No. All right.
Tater. C-ball.
I was going to say Louisville right now is beating Wake Forest 7-2. That's another thing. Louisville this weekend and Wake Forest was going to be one of those series season or weekend series to watch. Because I'm still the top 25 right now is very, when it comes to at least the top 5 before this weekend started, you had LSU, Wake Forest, Florida, Vanderbilt, Arkansas. Vanderbilt took one away from South Carolina. Florida had dropped a game to Georgia. But they're in the top 5 is 1, 2, 3, 4 SEC teams out of the top 5. Then you go to the 6th team in the country in South Carolina. That's 5 SEC teams within the top 5. Safe to say, like we have talked about, the SEC is not going anywhere when it comes to baseball. However, as you get down that list, the top 25 kind of spreads out. You've got 2 ACC teams that are sitting within the top 10, 3, because Louisville. So this top 10 matchup, I think, means more to the ACC when you actually think about it, because they're looking to still have at least one team stay in the top 10 besides Virginia, but Virginia will drop out after losing the series to Pitt. So I'm thinking here, this was probably going to be a battle for what team is the best in the ACC at the moment with Virginia and Louisville. And so far, or Wake Forest and Louisville, So far, Wake Forest has proven to be the top team. 11 runs in game 1, 3 in game 2, but a shutout victory. Today, obviously, they're slacking a little bit, which teams do. But now Wake Forest has a Pitt team who also came up a little bit strong against Virginia, taking 2 out of 3 there. So are we going to start seeing some shifts here within the Power Fives to where maybe the SEC is not going to be as dominant, or just because you have 6 teams out of the top 10 being an SEC squad, is that dominance just going to stick around forever?
I mean, in all honesty, with the amount of talent that's around that area too, a lot of those schools don't have to go outside of the area to get really good kids.
Mhm.
And I mean, I feel like just the Southern schools in general are always going to have an advantage. I mean, whether it be weather, again, just like I said, just talent, or just, I don't know, just competition in general.
Pure
In
play.
all honesty, I mean, like the SEC has been a dominant force in almost all sports.
Mhm.
And I think those Power Five schools, they will excel and do well, but I think ACC, SEC is always going to be very competitive in baseball.
Fair enough. Well, with that, then, should we look at some midweek or the rest of the week coming up here for upcoming games?
Yep, we can look ahead
like to
then to
note-
the week. What? What was it like?
I'd
to
like
know?
to note that the Pac-12 is slowly not existing in the top 25.
There's so many in the top 25. What are you talking about, dude?
List them.
Got UCLA, USC,
2,
Arizona
what else was
State,
in there? Arizona State,
3.
Stanford.
Stanford,
That's it.
Yeah. Congrats.
4, dude.
Congrats.
Dominant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dominantly getting out
Where's
of the
Old
top
Dominion?
25.
Yeah.
Huh?
Not ranked.
Yeah,
Nor will they be.
because there's biases
Buns.
everywhere.
I
Hey, how'd
actually think
Texas
if
this
they
week?
finish
Trash.
out the series and beat
How'd Texas
Coastal
this week?
Carolina, they might be able to sneak
Suck it.
in.
They won't. We're blacklisted. When you're
So
just
much
too good,
disrespect.
like they
You're
are.
just too good.
Yeah.
They didn't look too good in that second game against Coastal.
No.
Okay.
Cool.
Like,
So the
okay.
looking then ahead, are there
Is that
some
Texas?
series?
You just put
Ooh,
Texas in the camera right there? There
And
they
Old
are.
Dominion.
there it is. Nice.
Texas
Or the trash
and the
throws.
Pac-12. Let's
Or
go.
the trash throws.
So-
We are dogging on teams. I love
Looking
it.
then ahead to the rest of the week. So on Thursday, 2 series open up for SEC play. Arkansas and Georgia, and then Florida and South Carolina. So like we just talked about, I think that'll again be a really good series. If South Carolina takes 2 out of 3, that'd put them probably in the top 5.
Yes.
I would say. Then looking on Friday, some of the other series that'll start up. Wake Forest and Pitt coming off of a few upsets of a top 10 opponent. Vanderbilt and Tennessee. That'll be a good one. Virginia, Notre Dame, Louisville and Duke, Boston College and North Carolina. Both very close teams
Mhm.
in the rankings anyways. Kentucky and Texas A&M. So Kentucky still pretty decent team. I'd say that they're actually a surprise this year for the SEC. TCU and West Virginia. So TCU hanging on to a 25 spot as of now. However, they'll probably fall out. I clicked on something and it's taking me somewhere else. Oklahoma State and Kansas will play. LSU and Ole Miss. Again, Ole Miss not looking like the team they were last year. 20-15 on the season. Coming into an LSU team will probably have something to prove a little bit. After dropping 1 game, they will come out. Not taking anything for granted.
Nope.
Texas Tech and Baylor. Texas and Oklahoma. Washington, Stanford, Arizona State, Oregon State, UCLA, USC.
I'd say I got 2 games of the week to watch here when it comes down to a good potential standings here. One of them is I'm definitely going to have to throw that Wake Forest Pitt game on there, just because if Pitt is able to do that to a Virginia team who is a very good high-powered offense, I'm going to love to see how they can perform against the Wake Forest bullpen that is insanely dominant and really gives them that number 2 spot. And then kind of looking down the list for other potential games to watch for the week, I'm going to have to go with South Carolina, Florida, just because can South Carolina come up with, potentially after finishing today, can they come up with 2 back-to-back SEC series wins against 2 very, very strong opponents, especially when Florida has probably the best 2-way player in the country. So you're really looking at that. And then if you wanted to pick another game to watch that could shake up the ACC, I would probably say North Carolina, Boston College, to see if BC can keep up that run that they have had this year. And North Carolina's still looking strong like they have in past years that we have kind of come, or Omaha has at least kind of come to know and love. But it'll be interesting to see if they can keep on that high roll kind of coming down the latter half of April here. So.
Yes.
Go
Sorry, watch the
team.
dude jump into the what the.
Yeah, we are.
That's something you want to say?
No, I'm watching this guy. Okay, so there's
Come
2
on.
different things that threw him in this game. One, well, a dude jumped into the camera area that's outside the dugout to try and catch a foul ball, missed it. But second one is this pitcher's glove is like the webbing is really weird on it. It's like horizontal,
really
like
weird.
runs this way. I don't know. It is what it is.
Oh.
You're really weird.
It's
Alright.
crazy to think that we're already into April and like we're halfway through it.
It's cruising
April's
right along.
Basically over.
Yeah. I mean,
It's got like 2 weeks left.
we're going to be
Well,
talking about
yeah.
conference tournaments coming up here soon, which at the same time too, that is scary because that means baseball season for college is almost done,
And into fantasy football.
which we all know and love.
Yes.
I will win this year. Not even worried.
Yeah, because you're gonna rig the league again.
Yeah.
League commissioner coming in saying nope.
Anyway,
He's
so
just salty.
I got 3rd in both last year, so I'm dead
Okay.
middle of the pack, kid.
It's all right. I kept myself alive in March Madness. Thank God for UConn.
Yeah, it's truth. Anyways, so
Eh.
looking then at some sponsors that we have, dropping some codes again for Dubby pre-workout, energy stuff, and ShankIt golf. Fantastic golf
Energy
apparel.
stuff.
Wear it all the time. For both of those, you can use code CRONYOMedia, all capitals, for 10% off of your order. So for both those companies, Dubby and ShankIt Golf. Check those both out.
ShankIt.
Phenomenal.
Quite a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty often. But yeah, again, the code CRONYOMedia for 10% off your order. Again, as far as following us, thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. No place like Homaha. You can find us on TikTok and Twitter at Homaha Pod. Again, anything else, gentlemen?
I'm your host,
Thank
JD
you. I'm
Walker,
good.
and thanks for listening.
I'm looking at the polos from ShankIt right now, getting ready to
That's what I'm saying.
get some
They got
golf
some
attire,
quality
man.
stuff. They got some
got
Oh,
quality
you got
stuff.
time for golf, but not time to be on the pod.
Bro, I don't have a hunting
Very
season in the
interesting.
summer.
Priorities.
Very interesting how this is working.
You shut your
Sorry,
mouth.
listeners. Apparently, we're not worthy enough of his presence.
Maya, can I punch him in the dream, please?
No.
Again, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you next week.
I'll personally drive down to Omaha and do it.